And I'm sitting there talking to him, actually about Sandra Bullock. He done a movie with Sandra Bullock. And I'm sitting there talking to him about Sandra Bullock. My wife walks up, okay? And we end our conversation, shake hands, go our separate ways. Me and my wife, we finish shopping, get in the car. She looks me straight in the eye and goes, "Why did you not introduce me to Mr. Bennett?" I go, "Well, honey, I run into him all the time. I thought you knew him." She goes, "Well, I didn't. And you should have introduced me to him." So here it is, several years later, she finally got her introduction.
He wants to giggle him too.
Well, that's my story, and I hope all of you have a good time tonight. I hope you do. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Man, I was really hoping Joe Shepherd would be here. If you know our city administrator, this would have been perfect. Oh well, maybe next year. But at this point, I'd like to call, to the stage area, I guess. When we kicked off the chamber back in late 14, coming up on 2015, is when we officially formed. We recruited what had to be the youngest Chamber of Commerce president, if not Texas, but in the United States, or maybe in the entire world. He was very young. He's still very young, but he is a remarkable young man. And I'm talking about Robert Canaday, the president of the Howe Area Chamber of Commerce.
Maybe one day. Well, as Monty said, I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce here at Howe, and as I always like to do, I'd like to start off and thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank all of our members, our supporters, and our board members, because without any of you guys, we wouldn't be able to operate the way we do. I'd also like to thank everybody who came out here tonight and purchased tickets. One thing that we're going to do this year is, through the ticket sales, we're going to actually purchase chairs. We've been borrowing these from the First United Methodist Church and previously from the First Baptist Church, and so finally we're going to bite the bullet and spend a little bit of money. So
It's hard for him.
it is. It really is. As a banker, it's just against all of my genetics. But anyways, I won't take up too much of your time, but I would like to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the past year. But since we've incorporated, we actually incorporated in 2016, but we had been in operations for a couple of years before that. But we've continued to grow each year, and we're just about at the 100-member mark, which is just spectacular for a chamber of this size, and with a leadership team that's solely volunteer like we are. So that's a great milestone that we've reached. We've continued to make direct efforts to promote Howe, to promote our businesses, and to promote our individual members through events like this and Founders Day and other events throughout the year. One thing I would like to ask is, as we continue to expand, we do need a little bit more help, so to say, and we've been contemplating the formation of subcommittees, where each subcommittee is responsible for a certain event or gathering throughout the year. So if you know anybody who would be interested in that, let one of us know. Also, if serving like that, dedicating that much time isn't quite quite your cup of tea, you could join as a business or an individual member and be kept up to date with our newsletters and media, or get publicity through our media sources. Hang on. can't follow up to that. Okay. So anyways, I don't want to take any much more time, but thank you all again for coming out tonight. Really appreciate you guys' continuing support, and hope to see you all tomorrow at Founders Day.
I'm going to tell you, when he was 24 years old, he could not speak a lick in front of the public. He has come a long way. Great job. Hey, you got mine too. Did you take mine? Okay. At this point, I'd like to talk a little bit about our economic development in Howe. Mr. Joe Shepard, our city administrator back there, and our mayor, and our council member, and our city secretary. By the way, Joy Stevens is here, our city secretary. Georgia Richardson, council member. Thank you for being here. They were forward-thinking back in 2014 to put together an economic development program, and I'm so glad they did, because I would not be here otherwise. I'm really appreciative of everything they've done, and we've been able to really hammer home a shop local program. You know, 4 times a day out here when we get to our grocery store. Yeah, it's coming, I promise. We're working very hard, diligent to try to do that. So I'm very appreciative of the city for being forward thinking with that, and I love the direction that our city is going right now over the past 5 years. It's just we have tremendous leadership. We have an opportunity and a window to do some really great things in our city, and I'm very proud, very proud. At this point, I would like to talk about maybe some housekeeping. Restrooms are in the back. There's an emergency exit at both sides. Now, a year ago, we had, and let me start off by saying, those of you that are going to speak as long as you want. This is for you. I'd love for you to get up here. Now, there's a caveat. Last year we had an inductee, might have gone on a little bit long. I got a text during the speech from who is now our U.S. attorney that I got to do something to wrap this up. So this year I came up with an idea. So if you're going about 20 minutes or so, we are, that sound was probably like, okay, it's time to start thinking about this. How am I going to get to the end of this? No, it's going to take me a long time to be able to do that. I don't want to do that. So, but there is a backup plan just in case we have no. So at this point, I would like to recognize some of our oldest businesses in town. Can't start without the post office. I don't know, I think you're probably first. Other than the city and the police, the post office was here. Leanda Beckemeyer is here. She's a postmaster. The longest continuous business is the Howe Enterprise. They're represented tonight. Independent Bank came on board in 1964. They are here tonight. Remcor in 1969. Hey, Hughes TV in 1969. The Hawk. Baker Heating and Air came in 1970. We had MagnaFab in 1971, Southwest Auction in 1977, and the School Zone Academy in 1985. They are all still going, and that's very good to see. Those are great companies in our town. At this point, I would like to introduce one of our board members, and that would be the lovely Cheryl Bentley. I'm going to hold off. I'm sorry, Cheryl. I'm going to hold off for 1 second. Give me 1 second. Because we have one award that we're going to give away, but we don't have an award with us. But we want to recognize a person in the room who has gone above and beyond. And I tell you what, it's pretty awe-inspiring to watch this person go to work and volunteer for his community. And he doesn't even live inside the city of Howe. We're going to get you a plaque, Boyd Dunn. Come on up here, Boyd.
Let's just take a picture of it. We'll get you a plaque. For what? You know.
Let me talk about what Boyd Dunn has done. I don't know if you know about this church back here. It's the old First Christian Church. It's an 1893 building. It was dilapidated. When we moved into this office, about 4 times a week or so, I'd have ladies from the church come and visit me. What are we going to do about this church? What are we going to do? It looks awful. It's terrible. What are we going to do? So in the summer of 15, we formed a committee called Save the Church. Gene Norman is the president of that organization. Without her leadership and Boyd Dunn doing the construction, it would still be dilapidated. It would still look like it was, and there would still be 4 little old ladies coming into my office every week. Boyd Dunn has worked on that building tirelessly, and it's going to be open tomorrow for a walkthrough, and you can get to see kind of what has been done in there. The trim work, the inside, when we pulled back the curtain and tore off all the cheesecloth and everything, got back to the structure. It is shiplap, and it is gorgeous. And Boyd and his team have been over there sanding the floors, getting them back to its original look, and they put some stain on the stage today, installed a bathroom today. I don't know how he got cleaned up so fast. But anyway, come by tomorrow and take a look at that during our Founders Day. We'll be handing out some information there. Thank you, Gene, also for your tireless. You know, when we started this back in 2015, Alton Norman said one thing. I said, I've got a plan. I've got something going. Alton Norman said, don't get her involved. But she got involved. Thank you, Gene. And now, Cheryl Bentley. We'll start with our awards now.
Award with the Volunteer Organization of the Year. The nominees are Peggy's Porch, Howe's Volunteer Fire Department, and Keep Howe Beautiful.
Oh, wait. It's very impromptu, isn't it?
And the winner is...
Hold on. We've done this before, right?
Keep Howe Beautiful.
Rebecca Meyer, Keep Howe Beautiful. Keep Howe Beautiful is an organization that has done a lot of work in our community as far as planting flowers, cleaning and picking up trash. How about a few words for Keep Howe Beautiful?
It's an honor to accept this award for Keep Howe Beautiful. It's all volunteers, probably 15 to 20 of us. Donna was last year's director. She's now the president. I was the president. I'm now a vice president. How come you're not up here? Leandra was the vice president last year. She's the secretary this year. Star is the treasurer last year, this year, and years to come. We trust her. There's a number of people that aren't here, but I do want to recognize Mary Stoneberger. She was our volunteer of the year for Keep Howe Beautiful. We'll be operating a booth here tomorrow, looking for donations, and we'll have some stuff for you.
Turtle
And-
race. Turtle race.
Turtles. We need turtles. For the turtle
Yeah.
race. Everyone's got turtles.
I understand we're in charge of the turtle racing. Next week, we're having a Keep Howe Beautiful garage sale. It's going to be at Memorial Park. $10 a space. That $10 will go to Keep Howe Beautiful. And if you have a space, whatever you make is great. We'll also have a donation bowl over there as well. So, thank you very much. And we're always open for volunteers. We meet here the second Monday of the month, every second Monday of the month, 6:15, right here. Please attend. Thank you.
Hold up, Miss Beckemeyer. Ladies and gentlemen, the Postmaster, Leandra Beckemeyer.
Thank you very much, Monty. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the Business of the Year. The nominees are Abby's Restaurant, Independent Bank, and Polio's Pizza Cafe. So without further ado, the 2017 Business of the Year is Independent Bank.
Thank you. Independent Bank loves being in Howe. It prides itself in being a community bank. One of our 5 core values of Independent Bank is building strong and healthy communities. Our bank has grown from one Howe State Bank to an $8 billion bank with 81 locations from the Gulf of Houston to the Rocky Mountains of Colorado.
Wow.
Independent Bank encourages us at the local level to be involved, meet the needs of the community and the schools, provide friendly personal service, all while creating long-lasting relationship and nurturing our personal goals and our families. We would like to thank Howe for your business, your trust, and your confidence. As you all know, I can't do it by myself, even though I've been there a long time. It takes this group to make Independent Bank what it is. They're there every day, and we even let Robert come and visit us every once in a while. You know, he's down there in the ivory tower in McKinney. But when there's ice on the ground, Independent Bank Howe is where he lands. So thank y'all so much. We love being the only bank in town, and we appreciate all of you. Thanks.
I'm trying to find a better.
Can I get a picture of y'all together right here? Let me get out of the way. I need to recognize someone else in the room, and this is a pretty special person. We have a new state senator, if you're not aware. Pat Fallon, from his office is Robin McCoy. Robin, welcome. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Leandra again. This is a Norma J. Wallace Citizen of the Year. If you're not familiar with Norma J. Wallace, she was kind of the cream of the crop as far as volunteers in this city goes. She did a lot here for a number of years. So she did so much that they named the Citizen of the Year award after her. That's quite an honor. So here to introduce the nominees and the winner for the 2017 Norma J. Wallace Citizen of the Year. We'll let Leandra do that again.
Thank you, Monty. This is indeed an honor. This is a very special award, and I feel bad for whoever had to make the final decision because there were some amazing people who were in the running for this award. So without further ado, the 3 nominees are Anna Anderson, Monty Walker, and Donna Wormsbaker. And the winner is...
since I was 5. And so, you know, I've been a lot of places in this town. And I've enjoyed the work we've done with Keep Howe Beautiful. Also Save the Church. It's been a blessing to me. So to get this award is just, I can't believe it. I don't, I think I voted for Linda Wall. We'll just say that.
Congratulations.
There it is.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. The inductees. We will start with a man that was very dear to my heart. He was very stoic. Tommy Skipworth. A man of few words, but great words. Born February 14th, 1945, passed away November 4th, 2005. He was originally from Sherman. Mr. Skipworth made a name for himself as a superb multi-athlete at Sherman High School, and later on at Austin College, where he was eventually inducted into the Austin College Hall of Honor in 2014. Upon graduation from Austin College in 1967, he began his career in the education field at Howe ISD. He also married his lovely wife, Gail. He served as a teacher, a varsity basketball and baseball coach, a counselor, a principal with a big paddle, all while furthering his own education with a master's from East Texas State University. At this point, I would like to call up his son, Jay, who was also a great, superb multi-athlete here in Howe, and a dear friend of mine. To represent his father, Tommy Skipworth, is Jay Skipworth.
Oh, this is truly a great honor. He would love to, he just greatly appreciated this for sure. He did give his life to this community and all the kids that have grown up and become adults and all that. So this is truly an honor. I'm honoring the city of Howe, and I will accept this for him. Thank you.
I was about to pull out that get off the stage music there. It was going so long. It sure was great to see a Skipworth and a candidate together, though. Well, those are synonymous, right? Let me get back on track. Love that. Are the members of the Bob Williams family here? Oh, good. What an impact he made on this community. And Anna talked about the impact of the bank here in town, and boy, you can't talk about the bank in town without talking about Bob Williams. Born May 12, 1933, passed away March 14, 2000. Bob Carl Williams was born in 1933, grew up in Sherman, Texas, and was a 1952 graduate of Sherman High School. His contributions to Howe are well documented during his 23 years as Senior Vice President of First Bank Howe. Williams was a charter member of the Howe Band Boosters, as well as serving as president of the Athletic Booster Club and president of the Howe Lions Club. He was also involved with the Upper Elm Redwater Conservative our Conservation Committee and served on the Loy Lake Livestock Board of Directors. Williams used loan money for FFA projects to teach students a lifelong lesson. He was often taken for granted in this community by the projects that he did, especially for the youth in the community. He worked in many places not seeking recognition for his deeds, but doing all for the community that he loved here in Howe. He was the recipient of the 1999 Norma J. Wallace Citizen of the Year, and here to accept is his family of Bob Williams.
Well, I would just like to say how much I appreciate this award for our family. Bob was a great guy, and we miss him. He's been gone for 18 years, and I won't say this. I went to school here at Howe for all 12 years at Millwood High School, and some of these people that were honored was nominated. I grew up with that bunch of people, and they were part of my life, and it's just great. The honor that you give us, and thank you for keeping Howe going on the newspaper, and thank you, Chamber, for this honor that you give us, and thank you for everybody who voted for Bob. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And now a hometown boy. Love these. Boy, this is where you kind of carve yourself out of. You know, people that grew up here and made such a lasting impression on their community, serving. I tell you what, this is a very good role model for myself right here. Harold Taylor is a hometown boy, graduating from Howe High School in 1956 from his class of 13. After attending North Texas State University, he began a 37-year career with the United States Postal Service, including the last 13 or 15 as postmaster here in Howe from 1984 to 1999. Taylor is the only person to ever be selected as the Norma J. Wallace Citizen of the Year twice. 1988 and 1998. That's an amazing accomplishment. He was an active Howe Chamber of Commerce member and served as the treasurer on the board for the Howe Lions Club for many years, where he helped less fortunate children with eyeglasses to obtain them. Taylor also served as a scoutmaster and assistant scoutmaster for many years in Howe's Troop 45. Taylor was also a supporter of Howe ISD by becoming a charter member of the Band Boosters, and also a supporter of the Athletic Booster Club, as he had kids play. Pretty good athletes coming out of those genes. He and his wife have been faithful members of the First United Methodist Church for 59 years. And right now I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Harold Taylor.
That's something else. I do want to thank you for electing me to this honor. I really do appreciate it very much. As Bobby said, I am a hometown boy, and I grew up here. And I came to Howe in 1947, I believe, in the 3rd grade. And I met a wonderful teacher. Her name was Miss Maxine George. You didn't know that. She was a wonderful teacher. And of course, transferring from school to school sometimes is kind of a traumatic experience. And so the first day I went to school, I tried to ease on the back seat. But guess where she put me? She put me right on the front row to the left side of her desk. But pretty soon I kind of liked it. I took the dusty erasers. That was a big thing back in my time. And I got to take papers down to the office, and I got to collect from across the rows. And it turned out, I think I was really a teacher's pet. But anyway, I enjoyed Miss Maxine, and she had so much of an impact on my life that I decided I wanted to be just like her. And I've tried to live by that rule, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I told my boss in 1994 when I got the postmastership here that I would try to do my best and treat people right and not try to be a big boss or a powerhouse. I just wanted to be a common, ordinary postmaster. And I enjoyed it very much. And I feel like with all my activities here, I made quite an impact on the town. And I still enjoy this town very much. And I never will forget, when I was in the 5th or 6th grade, I got a new Hawthorne bicycle from Montgomery Ward. And they called it Monkey Wards back then. But anyway, I feel kind of like the old dog that was about half blind. He couldn't hear. He had a limp, and he had a little bit of mange on him. And he went to this dog show, and one of the dogs said, "My goodness, what are you doing here? You can't hear, you can't hardly walk." So I just said, the old dog just said, the old dog just said, "I like to be around some good dogs." And I feel like I'm around some good dogs. So I want to thank you for this honor and thank my family for being here. Family is very important in this day and time, and I do appreciate it. And may God bless you all.
Okay. I'm going to not tell any stories about Mr. Bennett because I want him to try to talk. I don't want to get him all too emotional, so I'm going to leave it alone. Maybe afterwards we'll talk about some things. It's an outstanding, wonderful human being right in front of me. And I told you I wasn't going to do that. Okay. Norman Bennett was born in 1932 and raised in Gainesville, Texas. Shortly after graduation from, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, he moved to Sherman where he taught math at Sherman High School and coached the tennis team in the late 50s and 1960s. He then taught at Howe High School where he taught in 3 different decades in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He was known for his contagious smile, his knack for math, and his ability to connect and mesmerize his students. He would write math problems on the board with his eyes on the class the entire time. I don't know how he did this. While involved in his teaching career, Bennett also starred in plays and musicals at the Sherman Community Players Theater. Working at KXII-TV, he hosted an afternoon movie show, Dialing for Dollars. Had roles in commercials and was the weekend weatherman. After his children were grown, Norman Bennett decided to earn extra money by auditioning for commercials and plays in Dallas. In 1983, he starred in 2 movies. You may have heard of them. Terms of Endearment, starring Shirley MacLaine and Jack Nicholson, and Tender Mercies, starring Robert Duvall, both movies winning Academy Awards. In Terms of Endearment, he played the role of a banker, Edward Johnson, one of Shirley MacLaine's suitors. In the movie Hope Floats, he starred opposite of Sandra Bullock and Harry Connick Jr.
They had more lines than I do.
And we have a very special situation here where also to introduce Norman Bennett as his longtime associate, teacher, and well, you don't think of one without the other. Hang on. I gotta get something going here. All right. Because she's always happy. Miss Donna Jarma.
I have a bag. Now, Mr. Bennett will remember this because when he came to the stage with a bag, we knew something was going to happen. And we didn't know whether it was going to happen to us or not, but we knew something was going to happen. So first of all, I have to say thank you for this opportunity, Monty, because you know how much I love Mr. Bennett. Everybody loves Mr. Bennett. But it's also an honor to be with all these other people who have been honored tonight. I mean, amazing people, Mr. Williams and Mr. Taylor and Coach Skipworth. Coach Skipworth, I have to tell one little thing on him. When we first did our teacher appraisal, he was assigned to me, and I was teaching The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spencer. He came into my class, and I could see him in the back of the room going, what the hell? But we did just fine. I think they were trying to mix things up a little bit with that. But anyway, I'm going to try to move this along quickly. I've got my little notes here because I know I'm going to stray. But first of all, I have to say, I've talked to many people about the sweet spot that we had during our time teaching. We had a lineup of teachers and administrators and family and students, and it just seemed like this. Of course, when you look back on things, you think they're more perfect than they were, but we had a great lineup, and we had some great times, and we were able to have some fun, and I have such friends that I've known for years and years and years from that experience. Mr. Bennett was often the sweet center of that sweet spot, because he's just a good guy. And that sounds like a very simple statement, but it's huge, especially in this day and age. We have many people like that. Mr. Bennett is just, smiling all the time and happy and all those things. And I was going to break this down into human being, teacher, coach, our personal MC, and then the movie star and TV. And I've gone over some of that today already, but there's one story I'm definitely going to tell. Maybe I'm going to step on his toes, I hope not. But what I wanted to say was that as a human being, stellar person. I've got a little memento in here. It's a frame, and I'll let you see it. I'll put it out so everybody can see it. It was our last day when you decided to retire, and we had been crying. I mean, our faces are swollen. But it's one of my big treasures, because that's how Norman Bennett was. When he left, we all cried like he was our family. That's just the way it was, even though we knew we were going to keep in touch. So I have that last day picture. As a teacher and coach, monumental teacher. Always found ways to get the point across, to find ways to touch the various range of students, even when they didn't get it. I have a story later that I'll tell that has to do with awards day. But he had those little tricks and things that he'd always do. But I want to tell you something. As happy as Mr. Bennett was all the time, and he is known for his smiling, he did have a point beyond which you could not push him. And one day I stepped out into the hall. Look at my face, I still remember this. I stepped out into the hall, and I don't know what I was doing, but I taught across the hall from him forever, so that was a wonderful thing for me. But I happened to turn around, and his door flung open, and this student, and I remember who it is, but I'm not going to say. Anyway, this student comes just basically almost tumbling out of his room, and Mr. Bennett behind him with a big smile on his face. Only it wasn't like the usual Norman Bennett smile. It was more like, the Joker and Batman. And this person was lucky not to roll down the hall. Now, I think it probably had something to do with disrespect, because I think that's the point beyond which you didn't push Mr. Bennett. But most of the time, just a smile on his face, we'd be singing songs out in the hallway. I think everybody thought that was kind of the loony ward of the high school. So I love that. I enjoyed that. I'm going to move on a little bit to our personal MC and entertainer, because we had sports banquet. Mr. Bennett and I did the tennis team for a while together. We had fun with that. We tried to do the best we could. We weren't super coaches, but we always had fun, and we were good sports and all those wonderful things. But he was our personal entertainer, our MC. At the sports banquet, he'd get up if it was on a Saturday especially, he'd get up and say, "I'm sorry, my wife Rosemary can't be here tonight. She takes a bath on Saturday." Luckily, Rosemary had just as good a sense of humor as you did. Thank goodness. I should have imagined, because she put up with you. So anyway, we'd always do the sports bank, and we had a great time. But the awards days, too, we'd always kind of hold our breath. And if we saw Mr. Bennett, only he didn't have a nice sack like mine. He'd have a grocery sack rolled up. And he'd come out on the stage, and everything, and we'd think, what the heck? And sometimes he'd give out awards and everything. And there were a couple of things I remember. One year, we all lined up, and he gave us Mickey Mouse awards. And we had to wear these hats made out of cartoon papers. And he gave everybody a different award. The one I remember was Betty Mullins got the BM award. It was rolled toilet paper. That's exactly what it was. And I'm sure we all got something embarrassing. I just can't remember. So now they still let you teach, and then after we had the Mickey Mouse awards, and I may be stepping on your toes here, but the most famous story you'll hear about Mr. Bennett probably is while he was in one of his classes teaching away on math and everything, and I don't know whether it was geometry or trigonometry or calculus or something, but he was trying to teach the concept of pi. P-I, right? P-I's got it up on the board. He's got calculations. He's got 3.141414141414, and he's going and he's looking, and he's got pi up here, and okay, it's pi, and this is how you word it, and this is how you work it, and all of a sudden his hand goes up in the back of his class, and it's an exchange student, so he's having a hard time anyway. Mr. Bennett still got the pi, P-I up on the board and everything, and he raises his hand, and he says, "Mr. Bennett, I do not understand P." Mr. Bennett took 2 beats and said, "Well, I've heard it called shit before, but never P." It's a favorite So the only other story I'm going to tell, and I've got my little gift bag here, and I want you to look at the pictures and everything. But at the end of all this, and I want Mr. Bennett to be able to teach because he's far more entertaining than I am. But I've often thought about what Mr. Bennett's biography would be like. I think it would be fabulous. I thought every once in a while about volunteering to write it, which would be a disaster. But I always figured that the title of it would be a play on words. Because there's this phrase that says, "Nice guys finish last." It's very cynical. We know better. We have a nice guy, a sincere nice guy who has finished first on multiple occasions and in multiple ways. So, as I stand here today, I want to say I've got your title, nice guys do finish first, and this was the hat, this is the actual hat that Mr. Bennett wore to coach tennis in all those years. He gave it to me. I think I wore it well. So now, our nice guy, finishing first once again. Hats off to you, Mr. Bennett.
We also were, when we had field day the first time, y'all may remember, we had our legs.
We did the three-legged race. We almost killed each other.
I don't think we won any trophies. But I did learn something from you from having my room across the hall. She taught Spanish as well as English. And everybody in here that ever had it remembers Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad. So I live in El Paso now, and when I see somebody come up to me in the store and they start talking Spanish, I just say, Feliz Navidad. I guess so. I don't need this, do I? No. Okay. I'm so glad that she got me laughing because I was afraid I was going to cry. I'm 85, and it seems like the older I get, the more I cry. And because I'll just think of it's a wonderful crying. It's not sad crying. It's just happy crying. And in fact, I wrote out my speech here. And my granddaughter, who drove me up from Austin today, I had her read it, and I said, now if I can't talk, then I want you to read this. And my son is sitting there, and he says, how many pages is that? So I'll try not to. I saw a lot of familiar faces out there, and I was going to ask all of you to pass up your homework. But one of my students beat me to it. Jerry Taylor brought his homework. Oh my. I taught Tommy at Sherman High School, so I knew them, Gail. So I couldn't have been in a nicer group of three guys that I know, because I taught the Taylor kids, all three of them. It's so good to see them, and the Williams I knew, and I just am very honored. But I wanted to tell something funny because I was afraid I would get up here and start crying again. So I thought I'd tell you a couple of things when I first came here. The first year, we didn't have a cafeteria over there at the high school. You remember it was over here, and Mr. Linker would drive the school bus. Lunch, a lot of you remember that, and he would drive them over to one, I guess it was an open campus, everybody went wherever they wanted to eat. And one day he came in my room and he threw the keys at me and he says, well, Bennett, I've got an emergency, you can just drive the school bus over. I said, Mr. Linker, I've never driven a school bus. He said, don't catch on to it. So I went out there and there were 8 or 10 students in the bus already, and I got in and I told them right off that I'd never driven. I said, if any of you want to get out and walk, they all stay on there. I guess they thought it'd be like a carnival ride. Get their kicks. And then the second year I was there, he rolled a piano into my bathroom. And he said, you're going to be the choir director this year. Well, I don't know, but if you look at the 1973 annual, I believe it is, that's the second year I was here in that spring, you'll see me with about 60 students in a choir. And we would meet down in that little math room across the hall from Donna. And I don't know how we all got in there with the piano and everything. I don't remember what we sang. Any of you in here in that choir? Okay, I think we sang. I I think we sang at graduation. Anyway, the next fall, they rolled a pin out. They said, just stick to that. But I've had a wonderful time here, and I want to thank all of you parents that I got to teach your kids. You had wonderful kids those 20 years. And this is a serious part where I cry a little, because they were so good and so much fun to be with. And a lot of you were here today, and I can't remember names as well as I can remember faces. I also love that group of teachers down there. I could just go down that hall. Pat Stewart is here. I was so glad to see her, and sitting right by you there. And I remember the day that Larry Macon dropped the big box and he thought it was your typewriter going to district. All of the funny things that we did. And when I did retire, Penny gave me a hose. Is Jamie here? Oh, you're down the end too? I just go right down the line. And she gave me a hose to hose down Rosemary. Every Saturday night. My wife Rosemary, a lot of you did know her, and she had the good sense of humor and the good sense too in the family. And if she were here, she'd probably be pulling on my sleeve right now saying, "That's enough, no offense." That's what I'm going to do. Thank you very much.
All right, a couple of storytelling moments. This is what I didn't want to do before the speech here. I told this 8 years ago at our 2010 all-school reunion, and it made Okay, yeah. I told this in 2010 at our all-school reunion because it made such an impact on me. Usually, you know, I played a lot of sports. I was impacted by a lot of coaches. Generally, those are the ones that have the tough love, and you have to deal with a lot with learning how to be obedient and things like that with the tough love. You generally don't get that from a teacher. You generally get that from a coach. Okay. Somewhere about junior, senior year, I think maybe probably senior year, Mr. Bennett's class is on one end, it's junior year, I guess. Mr. Bennett's class is on one end of the hall. Miss Stewart's is all the way at the other end on a different L, and a girl fight breaks out by Miss Stew's office. And as a 16-year-old boy, you're just looking at them going, yeah, they're pulling hair. And when in fact, it's not the right thing to do. And Ms. Jarma brought up the point of making Mr. Bennett mad. I quickly found out that was one thing that would turn him. As he ran down all the way, sprinting down the hallway, I saw him coming and I'm going, and he gets in there and he just wrestles these girls off, breaks up this fight, and stares me dead in the eye and says, I thought some of y'all were supposed to be the leaders of this school.
But you turned out all right.
Tough love. Thank you. Thank you for that. Because that goes a long way. You know, 16-year-old boys need a lot of help. That was a big help for me. Thank you. But another little story that I remember is when you had him in geometry, he had, this is a great way to make 16-year-olds remember things. Okay, you can have angle side, angle, right? You can have side, angle, side. But you know what you can't have? Angle, side, side. And then work it out.
And they still let me teach.
Well, those are the two major stories I have about Mr. Bennett, and what an incredible impact you and Mr. Taylor, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Skipworth, they made an obvious impact on this community, a long-standing impact that serves not only our generation, but future generations, because the things that Mr. Bennett taught me, guess what? Those get instilled to my kids. So it not only helps our generation, but it helps the future. Leaders like that make huge impacts for half a century or a century. So I think it's very important to honor those who come before us and kind of trailblaze a path for us. And I just want to give one more round of applause for those leaders and those inductees tonight. With that, we still have food. This is going to conclude everything. Congratulations, Donna Wormsbaker, Citizen of the Year. Quite an honor. Congratulations, Independent Bank Business of the Year. Congratulations, Keep Howe Beautiful Volunteer Organization of the Year. Congratulations, Boyd Dunn, our Volunteer of the Year. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next year. Tomorrow, Founders Day. cheerleaders could bring the raffle bucket to us, please. The cheerleaders, bring the raffle glass bucket to us. We're going to do a raffle drawing. We're going to do a raffle drawing. Check your tickets. The first raffle ticket number ends in 800. 800, the first raffle ticket. The second raffle ticket, sorry, I'm going to do this, 801. 801, we didn't mix those up very well. And the third one is 813. 800, 801, and 813. Come to the front, let us know. 800, 801, 813. These gifts are thanks to Leanne Rebecca, our postmaster, for these gifts. We still have 800, the ticket number 800.